Hello, my fellow clogged Brita filters. I'm Mr. Church. In this video, we're going to be looking at camps from 5 different builders, from immersive to atmospheric to what can only be described as a redstone or insanity. The first 2 builds that we're going to look at are made by glisterspeck, and I've actually seen quite a few of his camps in person in the game, and they all have a really cool story behind them. But this one actually has even more story-ish story, because this one is a recreation of a camp that he had built where he met some of his friends who he played with for many years, and this is kind of an homage to that. And it's also, I think it's a cool concept to go back and recreate something. You see there, established 2019. But to revisit something now that you have better materials and better knowledge of how to build, see what you could do, if you were to revisit that. I like little details in this build. You've got the stair covering the other stair in the stairwell. You've also got radioactive seeds being displayed in a chessboard that's merged down. But there's definitely something special about kind of making a camp kind of as a way to remember stories rather than just as a camp to tell stories, which this camp does both. You've got those banged up bicycles, and then you can come into Ace Photo, get your photos photographed. What? Anyway, I don't know too much about pictures, okay? Photos or whatnot, but I do know that he merged a bunch of stuff down into this display case here, which is very cool to add extra stuff to it. And there's a lot of detail going on. We've got that fridge, and this is actually 3 items right here merged together to create a custom bench. And over here is my favorite part of this photo area, which is the dark room. Now, I've actually never been in a dark room before in my life. I've only seen them in the movies. That's why I don't know what this is. I'm going to call it a flybuliber. Flybuliber. Sure, why not? And we've got that string going across to clothespin stuff on the sink where the acid is in to dip the photos. That's what they do right before someone opens the door and walks in and ruins all the photos hanging up. It always happens in every movie, so I assume that's what's going to happen here. But lots of really cool detail going on in there as well. Now, one thing that I do like about these builds is there's always a little hidden special treat going on. So if we go into this closet area down in the basement, and we look up, and this is one special situation where being possessed by Satan has actually worked out for me, because I can actually levitate on command, which I'm going to do right now. We're going to come up here, and you're going to see that's not Lady Comstock. That is actually the Mistress of Mysteries, and it's a mystery to me why she's up here, honestly. The next build by glisterspeck is in Lewisburg, and he's actually built his camp right up to the line. And again, this is in adventure mode. You can actually place your camp there. And he's built this cool little garage around the existing thingies that are here. So you come up to the garage, you see that there's this little area that smells like coffee and old tires, the double paned glass, and we can walk inside here. And speaking of double paned, try not to trip and fall and get a real humdinger in the old body part. Anyway, this is a cool area where you can fix up the cars. That's what you do in a car shop, I suppose. But because it's the apocalypse, I guess we also have the fusion generator powering everything, and we also have the power armor builders. But this awning thing out here is actually part of the world, so he's built right up to the edge of it, which is pretty cool, and piled stuff around. If we go out back, we've got an old car buried in the woods. But there's something really interesting about Lewisburg, and that is we've got the all those gardens on the roofs, and there's also this beautiful kind of decrepit, we've moved in after the fact and are living here vibe. And I think there is a little bit of that here. You've got these drop merge stuff on the shelf over here. But if we go upstairs and out the door up onto the rooftops, so up above here, we've got this gardening thing up on the roof. You can see down in through the skylight, which is a really cool, nice touch. And we also have just this little nice plot of gardening area. There's a destroyed thing right there, which I've just decided is a destroyed hot tub. I don't actually know if that's what that is, but I'm just making it up because that seems right. But there's a lot of like someone who was camping up here feeling, but when you look down to the skylight, you can still see that car there being worked on, which is really cool how it's framed in this skylight area. But one of the cool details is that over on the right here, this little greenhouse thing is actually cantered off to the slightly to the side. See how it's kind of turned, which gives the illusion that it was like constructed there on the rooftop after the fact. But all in all, very cool builds, lots of really great detail, and it really ties it in with the village and ties it into the town. Great immersive builds. Our next build is actually going to be two builds again. This is by yoshfreak, and just like I said before, I'm going to be linking everyone's socials in the description, so please check them out, give them lots of support. But if you take a look at what we have here, you might be a little confused. You might be like, is this Barf Building? It's not Barf Building. It's not. And it isn't Where's Waldo either. I want you to look at all the different items that are around here. Now, these shelters are similar to glisterspecks because glisterspecks are really well made because of where the camp is placed. There's a specialness about the camp because of where it is. In this camp, there's a specialness about it because of where you are. If you were to stand in a certain place, potentially all would come together and all would become clear. It's really hard to even have meaningful commentary about this. I mean, look at it, you know? What can you say, you know? This is made by a human being, okay? And when we zoom in, you can see just how complex the structure is, the creation of it. Now, this kind of art is, I believe, called perceptive art. And I think Michael Murphy was the person who spearheaded that, and yoshfreak said that they were huge influence and inspiration. And I think that's really cool, taking real-life concepts and turning it into a build in the game and doing it to this level of execution is extremely incredible. This is a second build by yoshfreak, and this one in a different shelter. Again, just take in all the different pieces and how they're all spread out. Like if you were to stand in any place in this shelter except the place where you're supposed to stand, it just looks like an explosion of items. And I mean, it looks really cool, honestly. There's kind of a movement to it. But if you walk up to the place where the little vault boy is pointing and you stand there, it slides into view. And there you have it. Absolutely phenomenal camps. Our next builder is a Japanese builder named Usayama. And again, I'm going to link all the socials. And I know we look similar. I get that a lot. But here is an incredible build. And there's a lot of attention to detail in both the atmospheric lighting, but also in the forced perspective, which is very similar to what yoshfreak did, where you are meant to approach the build from a specific angle and direction. And that really changes what the build is. For example, this handcrafted trolley up there, the scaling of it, because it's smaller, it makes the illusion that it's higher up and further away, and as a result, it makes all the buildings look taller. So you have this feeling that you're in this massive city, in fact. But if that trolley was any bigger, it just wouldn't look the same. I love this custom made power thing. You can see the benches merged together. You've got the broken radio, and then there's like a random switch, and just a lot of details in just this one telephone pole. But the wiring going everywhere, these things all add life to the build, And again, just the warm lighting throughout the whole thing really ties everything together. But I want to look at this handcrafted trolley a little bit closer, because you can see what it's made out of. There's so many items down here. You've got these planters at the bottom, and you've got these lights embedded into the counter pieces, which is being used as the front. You've got on the sides here the backs of metal signs. You've got this fish as a logo. In here you have the different heights, different half wall heights up and down. And then you have those lights in there to create a warm lighting on the inside as well. But my favorite part about the trolley are these power chunkies. I think that's what they're called. You have this heavy gun display case thing that's inside the generator. And this gives it that black thing on the top, which are called defibrillators. I've just decided so these tiny details just add a lot to it, and especially when you're viewing it down from the ground like you're meant to. And that's kind of why this build has such an impressive look. From up above here, it doesn't look the same because you're not supposed to approach the build from this angle. I love this detail down here. Again, anytime you can add movement in your build, it adds a lot of life to it. And this guy really sells the story here of the chef that's giving us meat chunks. But just like you would see in an amusement park or in a Wild West town, when you go down the main straight, if you will, it just has this illusion of this massive city because of where you are in relation to it and because of the scaling of everything. Just an excellent build all around. Now, I did go into some of his shelters, and that's not maybe something that I want to talk about as much. It's something that I'm still trying to recover from, in fact. It was like it was an experience, but it's something that maybe I can talk to my therapist about, not really something for sharing in a video today. But thank you so much, Usayama, for what an enlightening experience that was. Delightful. I'm delighted by that. I found our next builder on Twitter, or X if you're flaccid. This is you, and she built this beautiful little cottage here in the mire. Now, the thing that I love the most about this build is it's small, but extremely well decorated. There's so much detail everywhere. And you just have this beautiful, gorgeous lighting, the god rays shining down through the trees. And even in the house, you can see the light everywhere from the sun coming through the skylights with the shadows from the leaves. Everything about this build feels alive. There's so many plants, and there's moving butterflies and birds. And like I said before, all the movement that you can put in here, whether it's the shadows moving from the trees outside or the butterflies and stuff, that all adds life to your build if you can ever get movement incorporated inside it. But when you come in through the window here, it's just really open, vaulted ceiling. You've got this bar. It's just a really warm layout, but it's also grand, if that makes sense. And you have these rose bushes, which are reverse merged. And then the item that they're reverse merged from is hidden inside the foundations here. So that's pretty clever. And then to just be able to just hide that away, and then you've got so that you can put these bushes as if they're like, bunched up or growing in the eaves. And then you have this really cool lantern custom made, and all these different things that are being displayed in the chessboard display. And the cigarette there is actually an incense burner, and then you have a cigarette in a chessboard display, and then an ashtray in a different chessboard display, and they're all superimposed on top of each other to create this little tiny detail. And tiny details like that are what bring your build to life. It feels like a real place that you might stumble across in the game. You've got this cracked egg being displayed, like the knife broke it open. Tiny things like this really just bring things, alive. This metal tub is another display item. You've got succulents inside it. This is your meat corner. That's where you can just eat on the meats. And then you have this cool, putting that painting just behind there adds a lot to that display as well. If you go upstairs, and then you've got, of course, the light coming in through all these glass panes to the left, which is just really warm and cozy. But you've got more plant life. You can see all the trees outside. Coming in through this door, I'm going to go through it because I'm a camera that has no body. I'm basically floating above myself, dissociating as usual. But even up here, there's attention to detail. There's flowers and foliage being added. But this build just made me really happy to be in. It just feels really warm and cozy. And you can just look outside into the swamp, and you're kind of like part of your environment. And I just love this build. Make sure you check these builders out on their socials. Again, linked in the description. But let's move on to the next and last build, and this is Kazamati. Some of you might remember I showed a build by Kazamati in my chessboard display video. There was a lot of weird things happening there, and this is no exception. This build is actually what made me want to do this kind of a video, because I experienced it in game, and I thought it would be a shame if people couldn't see this brilliant build for what it is. Because if you look at it, it's just like, we're coming in here, there's a bunch of ovens and stuff. It looks like a very well-made, very detailed, small little shed. But this build is a lot more than that. This build is one of the most technical camp builds that I've ever seen. And the idea of it is very brilliant, but the execution is even more brilliant. And execution is a very important word. Let's keep that in mind as we experience this. So this has an elevator in it, and the elevator actually functions like an elevator. When you get in the elevator, you push the button, and the door closes, and when it opens up, you're in a different floor. I'm not kidding. Look, watch this. So we're going to use the elevator, and the door closes, and when you look back, the door's open again, and this doesn't say 1 anymore, it says 2. We're on a different floor now. So if you come in here, there's a different, we're getting off the elevator, and here we are in some kind of underground restaurant. There's all these turkeys on display. I don't know why they're wearing socks. I've been wondering that for a while. But there's a lot of detail in every floor of this build, so that's very impressive, and something to think about while you're watching this. But that's not the main focus of the build. The main focus is, in fact, what you can imagine Kazamati's therapist bill must look like. When you look at this, I mean, you have all these turkeys that are being cooked, absolutely, completely baked, just like I bet Kazamati was. When he made this, how else could you imagine this? So the turkeys are being cooked, and this is a restaurant of some kind. So maybe let's get back on the elevator. That's a very cool merge over here, by the way. Let's get back on the elevator and see what's next. So I'm going to flip the button again. We're going to go to the next floor. This time, just watch the door closes. The door opens. We are now on a different floor. That says 3 now. And when I come inside here, it's like a basement or something. But in the corner, there's a nefarious turkey. And it looks like he's making some kind of home-cooked meal himself, a bomb. And over here, we have what can only be described as a disassembly line, where the turkeys are going to the ovens. So that's pretty neat. Maybe, I wonder what happens if we get back on the elevator, like that turkey's, his bomb is primed and all that. So let's see what happens, I guess. Oh, God. We are now on floor 1. And the entire restaurant's blown to bits. It's all gone. All that's left are some feet up in the sky to tickle, which I'm not going to do, for Christ's sake. What the fuck is wrong with you? Anyway, the entire premise of this build is cool, but the fact that he was able to pull it off is even better. And I'm going to show you what's going on to allow this to occur. Because, I mean, obviously, look at all these, like, merged chunks outside to even make up the structure. That's impressive enough as it is, but we're going to click on this little button here. There is a Iron Maiden bed, which allows us to get under the map. And this is where you're going to see... it's redstone, okay? It's redstone, and it's also... Remember how I kept talking about stuff that brings a build to life? Think of this as something that brings a builder the opposite thing, you know? Can you imagine what must have occurred in his childhood that would have led to this? What's going on right now is Kazamati is triggering the buttons so you can see what's going on each time you flip the switch. There's things happening down here, flame traps, which are burning items in a specific order, and those are all doing different things, and then they're timed out so that they occur in a specific order. So what's going on, you might be wondering, and that's a great question. I'm going to show you a little bit. I'm going to try to explain it. He explained it to me. My eyes glazed over and drool started coming down, but I did absorb some of the information, which I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to try to go into free cam under the map, even though it shoves it up into the top, just so you can kind of see the scale of what's down here. You can kind of see the scale of what... You know what? Why did I even think this would work? Anyway, you can see that we have these 3 shipping containers. Now, these shipping containers each have a floor built on top of them. So everything that's built on top of those floors are the items that you see when you're in, you know, you're above ground. So when you destroy one of these shipping containers, those things all disappear, which reveals the next level of the build. So think of it like an onion with a lot of skins, and you have, like, the top floor has all that stuff in it because it has to hide what's on the next floor. So when you remove that stuff, then you see what's on the next floor. And that's why as you go down, the floors get more empty, more sparse, because you have to be able to hide that stuff for the illusion to work. So there's 3 jugs that are holding up these 3 shipping containers, and when they're destroyed by the flame traps, the shipping container disappears and everything on it disappears. So it reveals the next layer. So you have these 3 flame traps, those represent the 3 builds, and then down here is basically the brain. These have timers and stuff, which determine the order that things are destroyed in, and also times it so, like, the door will open and close at the right time, and the door won't open on the elevator until everything's destroyed, stuff like that. So you have the beginnings, and then there's just, like, repeated cells basically happening. But when you click on the button in the elevator, it triggers this first flame trap, and then you have tripwires, which open the door, and you have the thing in the middle, which burns before it triggers. So look at this thing here. It's blocking. And then you have... Oh my god. This is all so easy and simple to understand, so I'm not really sure. So I don't know if you guys have ever done, like, algebraic equations, calculus. It's not that complicated, you know? But anyway, stuff like the fridge and all that is a timer, because you wait till the fridge is destroyed, and then when it's burned, the pieces of the fridge fly out and trigger the laser traps. But then to close the door on the elevator, you have another flamer that burns another laser grid. So, like, you trigger the laser grid and it opens the door, and then you burn the laser grid to close the door. And then it leads to the next cell. So they're repeated. This burns that. You can see the flame on the bottom is blocked, but the flame on the top isn't, etc., etc. So the top flame can burn the fridge, which will blow up everything. And then when you finally burn through the concrete block, the bottom flame can hit that tripwire, which, you know, what? I don't know. How am I supposed to know how this works? He explained it to me, of course, but if you think I was listening for 1 iota of a second, what was that? Oh, fuck. Well, sometimes well, as you can see, the laser grid things can be triggered if you walk next to them too close, turns out. Well, I better get out of here pretty quickly. Yep. Well, anyway, what an extremely great build. Incredible. So yeah, they do have stuff like this in Minecraft, and it's designed for that. This game, I wouldn't say, probably wants you to do it. No one wants you to do this stuff. But it's actually so cool and impressive as hell. And it's hard to really understand, even after he explained it to me, how one could pull this whole thing off, you know? So, I'm actually kind of worried about him now, you know? Like, the field of heads wasn't enough. Now we've got this. But yeah, definitely check these builders out. Kazamati does have a YouTube channel, and he's going to have a video showing this whole build on his own channel. So make sure you check out all their socials. Will be linked in the description. Just excellent builders, and I want to thank all of you guys for showing your stuff. And I want to thank my channel members and patrons for your support. I really do appreciate it. I just uploaded a legendary weapons tier list to my Patreon. If any of you guys are interested in joining me there, the link is in the description. Join the Discord if you're not in there already. And I will see you guys in the next video.